Well, hello everyone. Dr. Mark Howard. Um, as I've been mentoring more and more of everyone here who's interested in sharing the three principles in their coaching practice, their mental health practice, addiction practice, or just teaching the principles to groups, I've come across another topic that I think could be helpful. And I talk about it in terms of sharing what you observe. And what I mean by that is, as you're with your client and you're in rapport and you're listening deeply, as I've talked about in my Listening Beyond Yourself audio tape, um, you will see things. For example, you'll notice that your client is continuing to talk the whole session and not really including you in any way. Or you'll see they'll look like they're not connecting when you share something. Um, or it looks like you really aren't getting anywhere with what they're sharing. You can't make like heads or tail of it. You can't understand it. Other things is that when you share about the principles, they kind of go, yeah, but I know that already, or I've already read that, or people show up in the same way from meeting to meeting. So there have been times when I've seen couples who argue a lot, and we have a really great session, and they seem to understand the nature of thought and how that is really what's causing them bother, not their partner. They seem to really get it, and then in the next session, they're arguing again. Or people say this a lot. They'll say to you, "Well, this is like." Such and such, right? This is like such and such therapy. This is like a such and such spiritual practice. Um, or they'll talk about understanding the principles. They've read Sydney Banks, and then during sessions they quote other spiritual teachers, and you know uh, as a way of demonstrating they understand the principles. So these are all things that in my practice I've seen many, many times. And what I have seen for people who are beginning in a three principles practice or transitioning to a three principles practice, they see these things, but they don't do much with them with their clients or with the audience. So I wanted to make this short video to support you sharing the observations you're making. See, what you start to notice that come into your mind about how your clients are acting or behaving in your presence is this wisdom speaking to you again. So I want you to feel free to go ahead and ask about it, share about it. So, for example, with that couple that keep arguing, and you notice that you could ask about that. You could say things like, "Well, geez, last session we had a quite a realization about how um, the principles affect the way you are getting angry with each other, how it's really coming from your own thinking. You seem to have both seen that, and now you're arguing again. What happened with that? What's going on with that?" Or, I see as I share with you the principles that you don't seem to get them. You don't seem to be paying attention. Um, or when you talk to me about your understanding of the principles and having read Sydney Banks, you bring in this other spiritual teacher, or you bring in another spiritual teacher, and you've done that in our sessions. And I'm just wondering what that's about for you. Can we talk about that? I had an incident in a role play at one of the conferences I was in, presenting the principles, and I was role playing with someone from the audience, and I just wasn't picking up anything. And finally, I asked about that. I'm observing that I'm not picking up anything. I can't connect to anything. There's nothing I can see that's of value to talk about. I can't make the connection. So I shared that observation. So those are just a few examples of this. Um, and the reason it's valuable is because, first of all, it's coming from wisdom. You're seeing something, you're noticing something. It's in your thinking. The second thing is if you follow it, it usually leads to a very rich dialogue, a dialogue that will allow your teaching to be more impactful and precise. Again, it's another piece of your client's human condition that might be getting in their way of really getting an insight or a realization. So as you notice things, share. Again, if somebody is talking all session, um, and it's coming into my man, what am I here, chopped liver? Where am I a part of this? That's good stuff. Really, that's good stuff. So ask about it. Geez, it's been like 30 minutes now, and you've really been talking the whole session. Now, it's okay to share with me what you're thinking, but don't you want something from me? Isn't that why you're here? I don't know how you would say it, but you'd start to talk about that. Now, what allows you to do this? Well, what allows you to do this is the special rapport that develops when you're coming from your understanding of the principles. The quality of rapport that comes from understanding three principles is very deep. It's really love and understanding. It's you in that deep understanding. So you're getting beyond your own personal thinking. But not only that, you know that this client has within them the knowledge to gain insight into the principles and how the principles are manifesting in terms of their experience. So that really brings the rapport deep, so that you're not an expert giving them anything. You're there to try to help them see something they already understand and know. It's just not conscious. The other thing about it that makes it pretty easy to do is that you don't want what you're observing coming from being judgmental or challenging toward the client. If it is, then you've got to quiet that down in yourself. You got caught up in some personal thinking. So whenever I go to explore with a client what I am seeing or observing, I have no challenge in it at all. There's nothing wrong going on. I'm not being judgmental. I'm not in any kind of personal reaction. That's very important. But it's coming from the free flow of my listening, the deeper listening I'm doing. So when I invite them to look at it, the other piece to this is it's okay if they don't want to. And I'll just say, okay, fine. Where were we? Let's go back to that. But I will log that to see if I could come back to that either later in the session or in the next session. So when it looks like you're in a heartfelt rapport and you're deeply listening and